I'm not making any money talking these days. Good Christ. I'm a dick, folks. I'm not gonna lie to you. Still am. I guess I am a decent guy because I'm a fucking jerk, and I'm not a jerk. Apparently, I'm a dick. I'm not an awful guy, but I've done so much ridiculous stuff. I'm an awful guy. Hey, what's happening? Mike Schmidt, 40-year-old boy. Podcast talking louder, so my voice is louder on the show. Because I hear from a lot of people saying, hey, your music is so loud, how come your voice is so quiet? So then there's two solutions. One is to make quiet music, or the other solution is to be like loud dude. And so maybe I go louder. Maybe I talk really loud the whole show. But that would be awkward and weird. And right now you're riding on a bus and you're pissed off because I just blew your eardrums out with words after your eardrums were already blown out with music. I hear from a lot of you about the sound, and some of you like the sound. Some of you don't enjoy the sound. I got to tell you, I got no fucking control over the sound. I don't know. I talk into a microphone. I don't know if I'm supposed to be. I see, like when you watch American Idol and the singers pull the microphone away from their mouth, like they're like, ah. Maybe I do the show like that. Maybe I just have the. Although I don't know who on American Idol is holding a note like that. You know what that was? That was Jim Carrey from Ace Ventura when he does the thing with the sliding door. He's like, ah, and he slid the door closed and open and shut. Man, I loved Ace Ventura. I saw that movie, I think, 11 times at the movies. I kept bringing people. Like, I loved it so much, I would bring friends who hadn't seen it, just so I'd be like, look, you have to fucking see this. Because it was so ridiculous. Because, man, I loved Jim Carrey. I loved him when I was a kid. He would do impressions. He was on an old evening at the Improv, and because he used to do the facial impressions, which you all know, but when you're seeing them when you're like 9, they're ridiculously amazing. And he did like Michael Landon. That was the thing. He did Michael Landon's face. I mean, who does Michael Landon's face? Nobody. And he did E.T. and Clint Eastwood and all. He's done Clint Eastwood in movies since, but Michael Landon, that was the one that blew me away for being 9. Because you know why? I didn't even know who Michael Landon was. And Jim Carrey did it. I was like, that's a great Michael Landon. Fuck, if I knew who Michael Landon was, it'd be even better. I don't know who Michael Landon is. Actually, I did, because I knew him from I Was a Teenage Werewolf. That's a movie from the 50s that when I was a kid and I loved monster movies. Not that I don't now. I do love monster movies, but nobody makes monster movies now. They always make a movie where that guy gets, hit in the head with an axe. No, they don't. Nobody makes those movies. If they did those, I would see them. I cannot wait for the Friday the 13th remake. That's going to be awful, but I can't wait. It's like when I went and saw the Texas Chainsaw remake. I was like, yay, this is terrible, but who cares? They remade Texas Chainsaw. Although nothing in any horror movie will ever top the look on the face of the woman who got hung on the meat hook in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Oh, my Christ. I remember seeing that as a kid, and Leatherface lifts her up, and she's screaming, and she's going crazy, and she's alive, and he hangs her on a meat hook. And her face was perfect. I don't know who this actress was, but she looked like she'd gotten hung just on a meat hook. I mean, that was like amazing acting, because Leatherface lifts her up, and she's like, ah, and then he puts her on the hook, and she's like, oh, makes this, I can't even do it justice. It was ridiculously cool. And I picture that woman in her acting classes her whole life, never being asked, all right, imagine being hung on a meat hook. I don't think that ever comes up in acting class. It should. It should come up a lot more often in acting class. That's what they should ask you to do. Hey, imagine you had to jam your hand into a bandsaw. Go. That's what they should do in acting. That would make acting class that much more exciting. But you know why they don't do that? Because all the acting classes are in strip malls, and they have to rent that space, and nobody wants to disturb the insurance agent next door. Because if you're teaching people how to act in slasher films, maybe I do that. Maybe open an acting class just for slasher films. Slashing, slacting, slash acting, acting slash slashing. I don't know what I'll call it, but it'll be a school just to teach people how to react when they're about to get a machete in the neck. Why not? And maybe I bring in some people who've actually, like some military veterans and some people from Darfur who've actually had to deal with that, and then they teach you how to do it in a real sense, because those people are looking to make some money, right? Nobody wants to be over in Darfur constantly getting pushed around and shoved around by the Tutsi tribe, and then they have to come over here, and then what do? They make $40 a day to teach you how to scream. I think this is what these people need to do. I am back, folks. I am back from vacation. Thank you all for your emails and your patience with the clip show and other shows. I just listened to the clip show last night, and I found it fantastic. I thought it was so good. As a matter of fact, we've got a clip from the clip show. Here it is. No, all right, we can't do that. But I am back in town, like a brown clown. That just rhymed. Um, that sounds like a drink, doesn't it? A brown clown. Well, that would be the best drink you could ever order. Like it's like Long Island iced tea, or I should order that in Vegas when I got drunk, just to see the waitress's face. Hey, I'll take a brown clown, just to see her puzzle and go through the drink book. Brown clown. It was funny when we were kids. Me and Mike Scott. We for some reason I don't know why we called my brother a brown. Oh, I know why. Here's why. My brother Glenn, he wore brown shorts all the time. Like he had this one pair of brown shorts that he wore one summer. He wore them every single day. So we would call him Chuckles McBrown shorts. And this is when you're 13. That's the funniest thing in the world, folks. Hey, it's Chuckles McBrown shorts. When you're taunting your younger brother with it, it's great. And then that got shortened to Brown Clown at some point. I don't know why. Poor Glenn. Why is he the Brown Clown? He's not anymore. Guy's got 4 kids, for Christ's sake. And by 4 kids, I mean 3 and another one on the way. Because apparently his wife does not own a chair. So they are very busy having babies in South Dakota. And we just got, it was funny. We got their family letter, the letter of, hey, by the way, here's what happened. Our kids had a sandwich in March. You know those ridiculous letters. And they're lovely, and they tell me everything that's going on with their family, and that's great. And this, by the way, will be the podcast where I cut ties with my rest of my family. This is going to be the podcast where everything ends. Everything completely falls apart with my family, because I was just home seeing them for 12 days. And by 12 days, I mean it was just 3 days. I only spent like 3 days with my mom and then a few days with Karen's family. And by a few days with Karen's family, I mean I think I was there for like 5 hours. And then I literally sprinted to my mom's house and had to deal with my mom. And it's funny, so my mom got an iPod for Christmas. And she's like, oh, well, now, you know what? Now I can listen to your show. No, you cannot. I would recommend you don't do that. That's what I would recommend. I don't know if you're aware of this podcast. It's not available in Illinois. If I'm you, I don't even touch them. Because the last thing I need is my mom telling me that I can't come to her funeral. Because that's my mom. My mom's done that. Because I have an older brother who I don't speak with very often. And by very often, I mean ever. And he's wound up, like, there was like a huge war, and then there was a thing to do. Like, all right, your family is crazy, folks. Let me preface this by saying your family is crazy. I get that. My family, also crazy. But because you're in that family, you think their level of crazy is much higher than any other families. So I will tell you that I get that everybody's family is insane, but my family is insane. My family is it's, there's 5 boys. I mean, my dad split when we were kids, so it's just this roiling fucking hell broth of anger and angst and all of us. I mean, are ready to kill one another at any given time. Even though we have, people that have been married and have kids, everybody wants to strangle one another at any given time, and there's a good chance that's me projecting my feelings on everybody else. It could be that I'm the one who wants to kill everybody, and everybody else is just like, hey, this is a great time. I don't know. But man, I'm 41 now, and I went home and I was 10, 13, all over again. As a kid, my mom had to raise 5 boys on her own. Okay, so my mom is a fucking brawler. My mom is just a two-fisted, and here's an example. I could not wait for my mom to get high. Like when I went home, I wanted my mom just to do anything to take the edge off while I'm sitting there. I'm just like, please, mom, get high. And my mom's down to shake at that point. When I was in her house, like she's got nothing. And I only know these terms because of my mom. Quite frankly, my mom's down to she's down to like tie sticks and broken wood. I mean, whatever the fuck she's got to smoke. And because it's she lives in a small town. And I don't know where. To me, honestly, my mom's been smoking pot for 40 years, easily. I don't know where she gets her pot. I don't know if she's got a connection or a pusher. I don't know if Huggy Bear comes to the house and drops a brick off on January 1st, and then she smokes it all year. I don't know what the fuck she does. But all I know is when I went home, like she was a little low, and you could tell because the tension level had been ratcheted up in my fucking house. Where we're less like, Mom, honestly. I don't care if I have to synthesize heroin out of some shampoo you've got upstairs. You're getting high or I'm fucking leaving. Because my mom is just so tightly fucking wound all the time. Again, I can't wait for her to figure out her iPod. Literally, this show, I am like running ahead of the curve here, trying to get this all out. Like right now, she's at home, literally looking at the iTunes and going, I wonder how to do this. And by the time this show gets uploaded, she's going to download it, and then everything's over. It's finished. Uh, we're just, it's funny, and my brother, Andy, and that's who I'm down to. I talk to Andy and Glenn. Those are my two brothers. I don't talk to Lenny, and I don't talk to Scott. Because my brother Scott and Scott, you may recall from previous episodes when I threw a cat at him, and he and I worked together at a pizza place, and I actually took him outside to box. Like it was like we were working together at a pizza place, and it was at this we just wound up in a fight where I went, let's fucking go outside right now. And he's like, what? Let's go now. And I'm outside in an apron with my fists up. I mean, like that's the kind of level you get with your family. You know what I mean? You don't get that mad at other people. It's your family that leads you to go, you know what? Fuck this. We're going outside and brawling in aprons. Let's do it right now. I mean, I'm covered. I got, pizza sauce and flour, and I'm ready to just jack a motherfucker. I didn't care. That's how and that's the level of angry you get with your family. You know what I mean? Like my brother Lenny and I, for years, we tried to be friends, and then something would happen, and then he would punch me, and I would run, because when I was a kid, that's what I did with Lenny. He would I remember the one time, I punched him and ran. Like it was like this huge breakthrough. Like I punched him in the face and then just fucking ran away from him because he was my older brother. Like you had that stigma in your head where like I can't beat up my older brother. And then cut to later on where I was choking him to death. Like I was on top of him, and it took my brothers to pull me off of him. I was going to murder him. Like I was going to absolutely kill him. And then he gets up and he's like, you got problems. You're crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I am fucking nuts. But we all are. Admit it. Folks, I was seeing my family, and I haven't shaken it loose, apparently. And it was funny. I said to my brother Andy, I go, man, because mom needs to, she needs to get some like antidepressants or something to take the edge off. He's like, she's taking 3. And I'm assuming that the 3 of them are canceling each other out, because my mom is on edge. I love my mom. I got to preface this by saying, look, I love my mom. Okay, she's the best, and she did a lot of things. She had to raise 5 boys on her own. Worked a job. I saw her punch a woman in the face. I've seen my mom. Like we used to play outside. Here's my mom's discipline. We would play outside, and my mom would pound on the window. Like we would be doing, if you did something stupid outside, you just hear wham, 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 the window, and you'd look over and be like, oh, I guess we're fucking up because mom's punching the window. Until one day we're in the yard and we just hear wham, 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 wham. My mom's fist comes through the window, and all the kids in the neighborhood knew not to fuck with my mom, so they were just like, dude, and we go running inside, and I just see my mom sitting on the edge of the bathtub with blood running down her arm, like Pete Townshend's arm on an album cover, and she's just holding a towel on it, and she's just looking at me. She's like, quit fucking around out there. Like that was, my mom wasn't even cared that she was bleeding. She was telling us to quit fucking around in the yard. So that's who my mom is, and being there for 3 days, it's like, but my mom also takes. I should not be doing this because my mom takes shit to heart. My mom lives in her house, and I don't like her shower. Okay, I don't think that's a big deal. I really don't think that should be a big thing. She lives in a house, and her house is very nice, and they're nice to have us over. But I made the comment one time that I didn't like her shower, and my mom just ran with it for like 2 days. Well, I didn't realize that you didn't like the shower. Well, I'm sorry that you got to stay here. I'm sorry that the shower is so bad. Like that. No, I wasn't saying move. Is it okay if I don't like the shower? I mean, look, you're talking to a weird dude. Like, I don't like a shower anywhere except my own apartment. I was just making conversation. This is my mom. This is my mom's pathology. Christmas, we're at my mom's house. Christmas Day. And I said, hey, so what's for dinner tonight? She goes, well, we made pork roast. And you may recall there was this controversy where they called me to see what I wanted. And I didn't care, but it turned into, that I was all of a sudden the arbiter of dinner. Like I was the menu maker for everyone. I'm the sommelier for my goddamn family for Christmas. I got to pick out wine and everything. What the fuck? So I go to talk to my mom, and this is me. And again, I should know better than to fuck around. That's my fault. But we're in the living room. And I go, so what's for dinner tonight? And she goes, oh, we're making a pork roast. And I go, and what else? And she goes, and kugela. Of course, you're going to make kugela. I said, what else? And she said, broccoli. And I said, what else? She goes, nothing, just that. And I go, oh, okay. She goes, why? Did you want something else? And I go, well, a second vegetable would have been nice. I don't really want a second vegetable. I'm just being funny because that's what I do, folks. Maybe you've listened to the show occasionally. Of course, my mom hasn't, so maybe she doesn't realize that I'm supposed to be funny. Anyway, she goes, well, I wish you would have fucking said something, now what the fuck am I supposed to? I go, Ma, I don't really want a second vegetable. I'm kidding. She goes in the kitchen. Andy! She calls my brother in there. Next thing I know, Andy comes into the living room, and he's just making this face, and he's going through a phone book. I go, what are you doing? He goes, I got to start calling stores to find out who's open so I can go buy a second vegetable. I go, you get the fuck out of here. You are kidding. And he goes, and he looks at me with this weary face like, do you think I'm kidding? No, I absolutely know he's not kidding. So he starts flipping through. I go, Andy, you are not going to get a vegetable. He goes, yeah, I am. He goes, Mom just said we have to find a second vegetable. And I go in the kitchen and I go, Ma, I don't need a second vegetable. Well, you sit there and you should have told me something. I could have gone shopping yesterday. Christmas Eve, you go get me a vegetable? What am I, Scrooge? No, I don't need. Mom, I'm kidding. I was just kidding. Well, it's no problem. I think there's probably some store that's open till 3. He's going to have to drive to Morris, though, which is like 25 miles away. He's going to have to drive there. We're going to go there and we'll pick it up. Mom, stop. But that's my mom. Like literally, she's got a shovel and she's planting a garden to grow a vegetable that night in the snow because of what I said. And I'm like, Ma, no, God damn it, please, I don't want anything. And I go, Mom, I'm going to be lucky to eat what you made. Please don't. And she's like, you sure? Yes, call off the dogs, please. Please don't make my brother go out on Christmas morning to buy me rutabaga. I'm not interested in that. So she finally has to tell Andy. Yeah, she's like, all right, well, never mind. And he just looks at me with this misery face, just this like, oh my God. And I love my mom. Again, I love my mom. But, people have things. Like we were playing cards. We were playing euchre at like 4 a.m. And my stepdad is going to be traveling. He's going to Texas for like a month. And my brother Andy lives with my mom. Because he lives there and he goes to, my brother Andy works as a pipe fitter and he works 5 12-hour days and then he goes to school for 8 hours on Saturday. I mean, he's just breaking his ass and he's helping my mom because my mom, I told you, she fell down, she had a bad shoulder, all this different things. So he's there to help them out. And they're helping him out by him living there. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, I think is what I'm trying to say to you folks. Anyway. So Andy lives there and we're playing cards. It's like, 3 a.m. and my mom's drinking Crown Royal, thank God. And Karen is bombing tequila shooters, and not even shooters, like shots of tequila. And here's my mom. Karen goes, "You guys have a lime?" It's 1 a.m. And my mom's like, "You don't need a fucking lime." What? No, she probably doesn't. She wants one. Is that okay if she asks for a lime and it doesn't turn into a huge family fight? My wife likes her booze with a little citrus. Is that okay? I mean, Jesus, do you really have to? I mean, it's just this weird, like, nobody just says, no, hun, or yeah. I mean, it's just always, you don't fucking need a lime. Oh, really? Are we going to go to the mat over this? Oh, Christ, folks. 3 days. And again, I loved it. I love going home. And if you don't think that I'm saying that over and over in case my mom hears this, you're crazy. But I do. I mean, but my mom is just a character. She's just, so then Karen's, doing tequila shots and my brother's drinking when he's drinking and my mom's drinking Crown Royal. It's 1 a.m. Like I said, my stepdad he's going out of town in a month. So as we're playing cards, it comes up and we're talking about it. And my mom starts talking about when Dan's out of town. And Andy goes, well, you're going to Vegas then, right? Because my mom has a good friend who lives in Vegas. And she used to live in Vegas, but now she lives in North Carolina. And my mom's like, no, why the fuck would I go to Vegas? And Andy's like, well, usually when Dan goes out of town, you go see Kay. She's like, no, Kay lives in North Carolina now. Why the fuck would I go to North Carolina? I don't want to do that. I'm going to be here. And I looked at my little brother and his face. It was just this, because he thought he had a month off. He thought that they were going to be out of town and he didn't have to, go up and down the stairs getting things and be there. And his face, he made this horrible face like, I might hang myself tonight. Honestly, it was the greatest face. He didn't even know he made it. Like, he had no clue. I'm looking right at him when she said, she's like, fuck that. I'm not going anywhere. I can't fucking travel. And he just made this face like, oh, I can't. Because he honestly thought he was fine. He was free and clear. It looked like that kind of, like if you were in court and you had everything, you had pleaded innocent, everything was going to be fine, and then they sentenced you to a month in jail. And you were like, wait a minute. I thought everything was fine. So it was that. And it was just, again, everybody's family is crazy. They are. They're nuts. I went over. Listen to this. I go to I go to Karen's family's house, and they're lovely people. They're all very nice. Her mom is just a piece of work. Her mom is. I can't even. You know what? Let's put it this way. She doesn't have an iPod, so I know she's never going to hear this. But I know that there are cousins and people there who do listen to it. So, folks, please forgive me. But her mom is just that's she is who she is. I can't sit here and savage my mother-in-law because I'm not that I'm not going to be fucking Buddy Sorrell from the Dick Van Dyke Show. So, but all right, she's a woman. Like, you walk into my mother-in-law's house and they have religious programming on 2 televisions, one in the living room, one in the bedroom, and it's blaring, it's loud, like it's that kind of thing. Her mom gave money to Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, like a lot, like kept giving them money. And then the shit hit the fan. But it doesn't matter. She still loves the Lord and all of his people on TV. So, but her mom also doesn't sleep. Like, her mom is this weird creature. Like, you could go over there at 1 in the afternoon. You could go over there at 4 in the morning. She's sitting in the same chair. Hi. Whoa. Jesus. I'm sorry. You startled me. I didn't realize you were a vampire. Oh, my God. And she stays up all night and she buys stuff on TV. Like, I make fun of the Snuggies and all those things. I would imagine that she's got them tucked away in the house somewhere. Here's why. I went over there, and this is a 75-year-old woman sitting on the wall in the case, the Esteban guitar. You ever seen Esteban in the middle of the night on the half-hour show where he's trying to sell you a guitar? And the best part of that infomercial is he's always like, see, this guitar is a beautiful instrument. And then Esteban plays guitar because he can play guitar. So people at home are just like, fuck, I got to get that guitar. I'll play just like Esteban. No, you won't. You still got to learn how to play goddamn guitar. But her mom, I think, bought 3 of them. Like, bought 3 Esteban guitars, and they're sitting there, and I guess it's a running joke with the family. They're like, "Do you see the Esteban guitar there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's crazy." And they're like, "Yeah, Grandma, she's up all night just buying crazy shit." And I'm like, let me tell you something. What if you guys didn't come over for a month? Did not come over for a month, came over in 30 days, and your grandma was fucking amazing on the guitar. What if she decided, you know what, I'm up 22 of 24 hours a fucking day. Why don't I spend that time learning how to play the goddamn guitar? And then you showed up and she was fucking balls to the wall awesome. Just anything like flamenco. Like, she made Esteban was there, cross-legged on the floor watching her play. That's how fucking good she got in a month. Why wouldn't you do that? You're almost dead. You're like 75. Learn how to play guitar really well. Do that. That's what you do. And then be crazy weird. Like, you ever see About Schmidt? When Nicholson's wife dies and everything goes to hell, and he's like, I got to figure out what to do with my life. Well, you don't want to be doing that when you're 75, but if you do, and I don't know if my fucking grandma, if my mother-in-law's got a bucket list. I have no idea what she's got. Honestly, her bucket list would include, kill Mike and then, wash the bucket. Like, literally, that's her bucket list. But she should, at 75, she should be like, it was like when I first met Karen, she had her grandma was there, Karen's mother's mother. And she had like dementia and weirdness. Like, she was living in the house, and it was like that. You don't ever want to, I respect Karen for bringing me to her home. I mean, she must have really loved me and known that we were doing well, because when, you show up at that house and you see the mom sitting there questioning everything you do and the grandma just wandering around with one sock on, you're just like, you got to feel real confident in that relationship. So we would go over there and the grandma would be sitting there and she would over and over. She was really cute. Because as, when people age, they turn into puppies. So it's like she would be sitting on the chair and she's like, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. She would say she was hungry. And then, her daughter, my wife's mother, would be like, Ma, you're not hungry. You don't need anything to eat. Come on now. Nobody feed her. Like they were, because the doctor said, like, not to give her food or whatever the fuck. And I'm of the mind of, you know what? This woman is 80. And she obviously she thinks she's in the Bahamas in her brain. She has no idea where she's at. Give her a fucking bowl of ice cream. Let her go out in fucking style. I don't even care if it kills her. When I'm that old, and again, this is a lie because I do this now. But I was going to say, like, when I'm that old, I'm going to eat birthday cakes in March. I mean, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to eat everything at all times. But unfortunately, that would describe my life for the first 35 years of my life. The guy who went to Noggles and had a bet that he could eat a macho meat burrito in 5 bites and won it. And saved the receipt for years, like, because it was like such a ridiculous win. All right, so So that was I can't. I'm talking because I didn't get to talk for the entire. I'm home 12 days. I don't get to say a fucking word because I can't be funny. I can't be me with those people. I can be it with Mex. Luckily, I stayed at Mex's house most of the time, so there I can be me. But even then, I'm around my godson and his sister, like little kids, so I can't be a jackass completely. So now I'm just spilling it, and I know this show has no rhyme or fucking reason. This show has no breaks and no I don't know what, because again, this is my first time talking after coming home from dealing with fucking family. Karen's sister drove us to the airport. Karen's sister Ann, and her husband fell down the stairs, and he fell down cement stairs that were covered in ice, and he tore all the tendons in his knee. And if you're a man and that didn't just make your balls rise up a little bit, I don't know what to tell you. Because when she told me that story, I get that pain in my, like in your taint, like where you just go, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, have you ever been riding a bike and you hit a bump and it hits your ass and you get this weird, like, oh my God, my ass might have just exploded. Like this horrible shooting pain, like someone jammed a fucking iron bar up your ass, like that horrible. Well, she told me that. She's like, oh yeah, because I know those steps, there's cement steps outside of the grandmother's house or the mother's house, and they were covered in ice, and he slipped and fell down them and blew his fucking, like tore all the tendons in his knee. Oh my Christ. Oh, again, it made me sick. So he's hurt. So she's telling me this story that now they were supposed to go on a cruise the first week of February, and they don't know if Wayne can go. And I'm like, oh man, a cruise, is that a good thing to go? She goes, oh my God, we go every year. I go, why don't you just get your money back? She goes, we can't. It's like you would have to spend another $300 for insurance, and we just thought, who would do this? But it's a thing that my friends and I do every single year. We all go on this cruise, and it's the cruise with the Bare Naked Ladies. And I go, huh? She's like, the band, the Bare Naked Ladies. It's like a fan cruise, and we all go on, and you hang out with the band, and they play, and everything's fun. And I got to be honest, falling down cement stairs covered in ice and blowing your knee out sounded a lot more preferable than going on the Bare Naked Ladies cruise. I got to wonder if Wayne might have gone ahead and done it on purpose. Who the fuck is going on a cruise with the Bare Naked? I only go on a cruise with the Bare Naked Ladies if we get to make them walk the plank in the middle of the ocean. Holy God. I never thought I would think Somali pirates were a good idea. But I got to think I am on board with the Somali pirates going ahead and taking, because even the Somali pirates, they would not even understand their luck. They would just see a cruise ship, then they would go on and they would hear, it's been 7 days since you looked at me. Oh my God, how lucky are we? We get to fucking kill the Bare Naked Ladies. Those are the luckiest Somali pirates on earth. Oh God. And again, I love Van Halen, so a lot of people think that's stupid. I used to love wrestling as a kid. I mean, I get it. I love MMA. People think that's ridiculous. Everybody loves what they love, and that's that. But I reserve the right to make fun of everything that everybody loves. She's telling me the story about the Bare Naked Ladies cruise, and they got a suite, and all their friends pitched in on it. And normally they get to mingle, I guess, with the band members, and the band members' families and wives are there. She's like, but now we got a suite in the private area where the band is, so we all share a common area. Like we could actually swim in the pool, and we get to eat. And we hang out with the band and their families all week long. So that's really cool. We get to actually kind of hang out with their wives. Normally we just get to meet them, but this time we actually get to hang out with them. Oh my God. I'm sitting there just going, and what's funny is as bad as I think that is, as horrible as I think that is, imagine how bad the Bare Naked Ladies think it is. They're like, we got to hang out with a bunch of people from Oswego, Illinois. Oh my God. Why did we think of this? Who thought this was a good idea? And as bad as the Bare Naked Ladies think it is, how bad do you think the Bare Naked Ladies' wives think it is? Because they could all be out at the pool, and then a bunch of people walk over from, Mattoon, and they're like, hey, we're from Illinois. Let's all talk about how much we love you. And the Bare Naked Ladies can go, you know what? We're rehearsing an album on the poop deck. So they take off, and they leave their wives there to have to mingle with the fans. Oh, my God, that whole cruise sounds like a mess. Not interested. Not interested in the Bare Naked Ladies. Not interested, quite frankly, in my sister-in-law. Not interested in any of it. I don't like boats. I don't like fucking water. That entire... again, all I can root is for a hurricane or pirates of some sort to come along. And again, I hope my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law are not on the ship now, because luckily he destroyed his knee, and he doesn't have to go visit with the Bare Naked Ladies. It's so funny because bands... You think bands are gone. Like, you don't think bands are popular anymore, but they do things like this. Like, I mean, that's, hey, let's take a train ride with Godsmack. You know what I mean? It's like these bands, that's what they do. They And I don't blame them. Again, it is much more preferable to sitting in a goddamn graveyard desk. You know what I mean? If I could find a way to monetize this podcast and make it a cruise with you guys, I would do it. I mean, that would be fantastic. Of course, it'd be just me and two people in a fucking rowboat. You know what I mean? Just and them you know who those two people would be? My mom and my brother. That's who it would be, because they wanted to discuss episode 42. Jesus. But that's what those bands do, man. It's like you're sitting there, you're like, hey, whatever happened to Dexy's Midnight Runners? What, you want to know what happened to them? They're in a loft across the street. You want to pay $5 to go talk to them? I saw the movie The Wrestler, and it's so funny. There's scenes where he shows up at a memorabilia show with like his old memorabilia to sign and meet people. And, that's how those bands are. They're playing the rib fests. And again, who am I to joke? I just saw Eddie fucking Money, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? These bands exist, and this is what they do, and they should. Because it's so funny online. People will make fun of Cheap Trick, or I'll make fun of Eddie Money, or they'll bust their balls. You know what? Those people are still making a fucking living playing music. Their worst day is better than your best day at work. Ever. Ever. Cheap Trick's worst day is playing they're in 95-degree heat outdoor at Rib Fest, playing music for an hour and 15 minutes, but then they get to leave and go back to their homes and their mansions and their Playboy Playmate wives and their guitars shaped like them. That's what Cheap Trick gets to do. Meanwhile, you go to the Rib Fest, you drink too much, you wind up eating too much pork, you vomit in a garbage can, and the next day you're welding. What the fuck is that? Nobody wants to do that. So the next time you go to make fun of the bands I like, or anybody that and again, who am I to talk? I'm making fun of the Bare Naked Ladies. They're on a goddamn cruise that people paid to take so they could talk to the Bare Naked Ladies. I can't make fun of that, but I can, because it sounds horrible. But it's horrible to me. I mean, it's not horrible to fans of the Bare Naked Ladies. And all these bands probably have fans who want to do shit. That's all you need. You know what you need? You need a band and a mode of transportation, and you've got a party. That's it. Because that band's got fans. It's like all of a sudden you're like, hey, you want to go on a nature hike with Hootie and the Blowfish? Absolutely, let's do it. Unfortunately, Hootie is very popular. He will not be able to attend. How about a nature hike with the Blowfish? Are you in for that? Because the Blowfish are looking for anybody to talk to at this point. Because Hootie's off watching the Miami Dolphins and singing country songs, for God's sakes. Hey, who wants to go on a fucking roll down a hill in a tractor tire with Jamiroquai? Anybody? Who's in it? That's all you need. You need a method of transportation and an artist from the 90s, and you're in. That's all you got to do. Who wants to roll down a hill in a tractor tire with Jamiroquai? Everybody does. Just because he's going to sing that Virtual Insanity song the entire way down, and you'll hit a bump, and he'll be like, ugh. That's it. Who wants to get into a van with crash test dummies? Everybody does. And actually, that's probably one that I shouldn't have even thought of. All right, that's switch them. Jamiroquai's in the van, and you're rolling down a hill in a tractor tire with crash test dummies. Actually, you know what? No, it doesn't work at all with crash test dummies, because then everything you're doing, you're thinking about fucking smashing into a wall. That's all you need, man. Who wants to ride with Roxette on a bicycle built for suck? Everybody does. That's what I want to do. I want to hop on a bike with Roxette and go through the park. And hopefully we can pass by Alphaville on a skateboard. If you got a band that people like and you've got a thing with wheels on it, you've got a weekend. And there's money to be fucking made. Who wants to roller skate with EMF? I do. I can't make fun of these fucking people because there are people who would pay to do that. Oh, Jesus. So yeah, that was my. I was with my family and Karen's family, and that went well. Because again, Karen's family, like some of them, they have no idea what I do. They're just like, they just know I'm Karen's husband. It's like I don't have a job, which is true. Actually, I guess they do know what I do. They're more in tune to what I do than anybody else. They've got me sussed. And then you go there, and I saw I didn't see many of my friends. It was weird. They're busy because they all got families now. I got nothing going on, man. We went New Year's Eve for sushi in the snow. That's weird to go eat sushi in the snow. Well, there was a roof. I mean, that's stupid. But we drove out. And by the way, there was snow and there was bad weather. It was cold, but nothing I'm not used to. And again, I get to leave in 12 days. But then I come home and I got a letter in the mail from Universal Studios, and it said, "Come play in real snow." I love that somebody else's misery out here is just like another fucking thing to go have fun with. Ha ha ha! Isn't that hilarious? Those people are getting fucking killed by cold temperatures. Why don't you come and frolic in it while you're thinking about going to the Simpsons movie ride? What a bunch of fucking dicks. That's so mean. That's like, you might as well just build like a hurricane chamber. Why don't you do that too? Just Call it Katrina Jr. Everybody can pay for the experience. Everybody can go loot oatmeal and float on top of a house. And actually, if you pay to ride the Katrina ride at Universal Studios, unfortunately, it's a 3-day ride and nobody comes and talks to you. You pay, you go in, and that's it. No, you don't see anybody for 3 fucking days. Oh, the Katrina ride at Universal Studios. They need money. All right, so what was I talking about? My family. And again, I'm dumping shit on you guys because I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody else about it. Again, you spent time with your families. I'm sure it was all lovely and everybody had a great time. And I had a good time too. I like my family. Everything's great except I like the members of my family who still talk to me. That's who I like. My oldest brother and my youngest brother, not so much. They're not so interested in chatting with me these days. And that's weird. It's fucking weird. I'm not gonna lie to you, but that's the way life is. And my buddy, I told you, my buddy Mex and I all the time say when you have weird shit, because I get people who bust my balls about my stories, and then I just assume that everybody had this kind of shit happen to them in their life, and and they did not. Turns out. Yeah. I didn't. I saw a few of my friends. Karen saw her friends, and it's funny. Karen. She has a friend that she saw. I didn't get to see her, unfortunately. By unfortunately, I mean thank God. Karen and her friend Vicky. When I first met Karen, this is in like '93, and I was doing the road in Chicago. I had just moved to Chicago, and I was doing the road, and I had this huge Lincoln, like a 1968 Lincoln with suicide doors. It was fucking awesome. But of course, it cost like $85 to go to a fucking road gig. So I wound up meeting Karen at a comedy club one night because Vicky, the connection we have is Vicky used to bang my brother. Okay, so Vicky was like, "Hey, I'll come by and pick." They were going to pick me up at this comedy club and then bring me to go meet Lenny, and I had never met Karen before. So the two of them picked me up, and I could see that Karen loved me right away. Actually, Karen and I wound up making out that night. It was, which was crazy because, as I think I may have mentioned, Karen was a virgin when she met me. So that'll explain some of the animal magnetism I'm bringing to the table, folks. That she winds up making out with me that night, and I kept trying to put my hands under her shirt. She's like, "No," and then she's like, "Yes." No, she wasn't. It was so funny. I tell her this story now. We were in the bar, and I was all Mr. Cool, and Vicky was drinking Grolsch beer. You ever heard of Grolsch? And they have these weird caps, Grolsch. And I guess there's a thing where if you separate, it comes with like a metal thing. And if you pull it apart, there's like a message. I don't fucking remember. All I remember is they were trying to do it. And Lenny and my brother, or Lenny and Vicky were they were like, "Oh, yeah, you got to pull apart this cap because there's something to do." And Karen's like, "Oh, let me try." And I go, "You know what? I'll do it." And I took it and I tried it because I thought I would be able to do it. And it was much harder than I thought. So I didn't want to look like a hump. So I'm like, I tried it and then I put it down and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the restroom. And then I grabbed it like on the sly and I took it into the bathroom. And in the bathroom, I might as well have been doing a handstand, like trying so hard to impress her by taking apart this cap. I actually took it in the restroom and I hooked it onto the hook in the stall. I'm in the men's room. You know how you go into a bathroom stall and you close it and it's got that hook for your coat? Because apparently nobody likes to shit wearing a coat. I don't know how it works. But because, a lot of your proper men in a bar will take their coat off to take a dump. So I actually put it on the hook, and I'm pulling it to try to pull it apart, and I fucking ripped the hook right out of the stall door. Ka-ding, king, king, like that weird metal noise. It goes flying. The fucking cap comes at me, and I have to duck. I'm destroying a bathroom trying to impress this girl is what I was trying to do. And then I walked out. My hand was bleeding. That's how much I was trying to do this. And believe me, nothing impresses a woman more than you coming out of the bathroom with bloody hands. She has no idea what was going on in there. But apparently, that's my magnetism was more than that. It overpowered it, and we still wound up making out. And maybe that's why I couldn't put my hands under her shirt, because they were bloody. She didn't want a bloody bra. Because the last thing she needs to do is go home and have her mom playing an Esteban guitar going, "What the fuck happened to your bra?" So, but her friend Vicky, like I said, used to bang my brother. So I'm talking to Karen. We developed kind of a relationship. We go out a couple times, and she pays for everything because I'm broke. And I have a road gig coming up, and I'm like, "Hey, why don't you go with me on this one-nighter that I'm going to in Indiana, Goshen, Indiana?" And that is a great place. Anyway, we were going to go, and I said, "You can stay over with me." Nothing funny, no funny stuff, but just, if you want to stay over, whatever, I'm sure they got a couch or, wink, wink, come with me. So Karen's like, all right, she wants to do it, but then she's like, I'm going to enlist Vicky to go, like, as a buffer. And I'm like, oh, fucking seriously? All right. So she brings Vicky. We drive up. It seemed, or they, you know what? Yeah, we did. We drove up together. I apologize. No, take that back. I drove up with the headlining comic, and then I drove home with Karen and Vicky. That was the plan. So they drive up and they meet us there, and they come to the gig, and the gig happens, and we're going to go out afterwards. So we wind up in a restaurant, and this is Karen's friend Vicky. This is her best friend. This is a friend from school and who used to bang my brother. So she's being like kind of flirty with me, and I'm like, all right. And Karen and I are just kind of, this is our first, we've only dated like 4 times, so it's not like we have any crazy relationship yet, but I'm still getting a weird vibe from Karen, like she can see what's happening, but she's not really noticing. So she, 3 of us go to a restaurant, and Karen leaves to go to the restroom, so it's just me and Vicky at the table. And Vicky says, so what are the sleeping arrangements tonight? And I said, in my room there's like a couch. So I go, you guys can sleep in the bed, and I'll sleep on the couch. And she goes, oh, that's too bad. And I go, and again, when someone says, all right, because I don't know either of these girls that well at this point. All I know is that, like I said, Vicky banged Lenny, and Karen and I are sort of dating. And now I'm starting to think that they have something in mind. Like maybe this is what they do all the time, and then they're going to wind up tag teaming me. Because again, that's where your mind goes as a guy. You're just like, oh well, all right, I'm going to get banged here. This is going to be beautiful. I'm going to 3-way action. Is that what's happening? But guys think that seriously. You could think that in a grocery store if the woman in front of you says, oh, you can go ahead of me, and there's a woman checker. You're like, I'll bang both these chicks. Who cares? So Vicky says that's too bad, and I said, oh yeah, because I'm trying to be cool about it. Because I you can't just be like, oh really. I said, oh, yeah, why is that? And she reaches under the table and grabs my leg. And she's about a ½ inch away from my cock, which if she leaves her hand there any sooner, she's going to find out that I'm going to close the gap pretty quick. Just the thought of 3-way action. And again, I have to say, I mean, like I wasn't even attracted to Vicky. Again, she got worked by my brother, for Christ's sake. But a 3-way, who cares at this? I don't even care. And I should also tell you this. When I checked in, for some reason, the desk clerk vibed me hard, like what, and actually left a note under my door with, like, telling me when she got off. So I know I had that backup happening if nothing else happened with Vicky and with Karen. And so she's got a handful of my leg, and she goes, because if we were all in bed together, I don't think I'd keep my hands off you. And I looked at her and I went, well, that's your loss. Because again, you can't just be like, because I'm trying to maintain the whole, I'm trying to be cool at this point and not just, fire off a rod there at the table and go, hold on, you got a handful of my cock. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm trying to still parse this information because I'm here with her best friend. And again, your mind is racing. I go, that's your loss. Because is she playing a trick, like trying to see if I would make a play for her, and that's how they do things? Like, I couldn't figure out what was happening. But suffice it to say, I mean, she was basically saying that the 3 of us should hop in the sack. And then Karen comes back from the restroom, and, her hand's on the table. Both hands are on the table. And I'm sitting there, I'm a little weirded out. And the night progresses fine, normally. Like, Vicky can't stop flirting with me and touching my arm and, playing with her hair and everything else. And you can see just Karen just furious. Like, she can't believe this is happening. But I'm not playing into it. I'm absolutely showing respect to Karen, and I'm with Karen. I'm not buying it. So then that night, it winds up the headliner leaves. And he says, hey, Mike, if you want my room, you can have it. So I go, all right. I go, ladies, if you guys want to stay in one room and I'll stay in the other, we can do that. So it turned out that they went in the room, and then Karen came over to my room, and then Karen stayed in my room. Nothing happened because, again, like I said, Karen was a virgin, but just a lot of, rolling around, like a lot of that, a lot of fumbling going on. And, stockings and bras stayed on. Everything else was, up in the air. So whatever, who cares? No one cares. And by the way, I was wearing the stockings and bras. So the night ends, and then the next morning we go to split, and Vicky tells me to sit up front. Like, she's like, oh, you can sit up front. And I'm like, no, Karen, you sit up front. And Karen's like, no, it's okay. And then I get up front, and I proceed to have the worst ride in a car I've ever had in my entire life because for some reason, Vicky is still flirting with me, and now Karen, she's probably a little ashamed because the previous, again, like I said, she's a virgin. So the night before, there was a lot of stuff going on, but nothing actual, no real sex. But now she's probably feeling a little ashamed about it or weirded out because she doesn't know how to process all these emotions. And all she can see is that her friend has told me to sit up front, and her friend is flirting with me. And Karen was the most evil person ever that I've ever confronted in my life. That ride home, I was sitting there biting my lip going, I want to get out. Like I was going to get out and take a cab from Indiana. That's how fucking bad it was. And I was even saying and when I got out of the car that day, because she was a complete, I never, whatever. She was very bad. It was bad. I don't call my wife names. I just don't do that. But she was acting in a way that would make you say some sort of bad name. So they drop me off at my house, and I say goodbye for what I'm sure is the final time to both of them. Because I got no interest in ever spending another second with the girl that was in the backseat of that car because she was horrible. And I let a week go by before I even call her, which is even worse then because then, like I said, she's all weirded out about what happened. Then I don't call for a week. So then she thinks I'm this horrible guy who got what he wanted, even though I didn't. And then finally she just shows up in my apartment one day and I'm like, hey, how are you? And she's like, fine. And it's kind of tenuous. She's like, you want to go get something to eat? And we go eat and we go talk and everything's fine. Like she's like, I'm sorry I was mean in the car. And I said, okay, well, that's cool. And then everything's fine. And as you know, the rest is history because she lives with me now. But a couple months after this happened, like I don't see Vicky that much anymore. And she's hanging out with Vicky, still her friend. And all of a sudden, Karen and I are having this big discussion, and she mentions to me that Vicky thinks that I'm bad for her. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she goes, oh, well, Vicky, they claimed to see me walking with some girl on the street. Like, Vicky and another friend told her that I was not the guy for her, and that she should watch out because I was a guy who would cheat on her or whatever. And they claimed to have seen me leaving a building with some girl or whatever. And I go, are you fucking kidding me? She goes, no. And I go, all right, you want to hear something? And I told her what Vicky did the night that we went out to Indiana. I told her that Vicky grabbed my leg and wanted to hit the sack with that all three of us should be in bed together. And I was just, because I was so fucking mad, I should have thought about it. I should have processed it better. But I'm like, oh yeah, you want to hear what Vicky did? The night we were in Indiana, Vicky grabbed a handful of my leg and said that the three of us should be in bed together. I said this in a parking lot. And Karen just looks at me and makes this face like, what? I mean, this is her best friend of 15 years, and I just dropped that in her fucking lap. And so that was not good. So I'm glad I didn't see. There's no payoff. I got no payoff for you. All I know is I didn't see Vicky on this trip, and it's probably for the best. Because this is 15 years ago, but I'm sure it still resonates. I'm sure that that's not good. So yeah, I was disappointed I didn't get to see more friends when I was there. It's funny. I was talking to my buddy Jeff. I only saw him once when I was in town, and he wound up seeing our friend Rich, and Rich is a guy I used to call Rich the Ripper when we were growing up. We were all friends with Pete. There was a group of us. It was me and Max and Dennis and Jeff and Pete and Big Guy. And Pete's little brother was Rich. And they were a typical Italian family. Like you'd go to their house and it was like Saturday Night Fever. Like they'd, tablecloths around their necks at dinner and fucking screaming at one another the entire time. Like all of them screaming. The only thing they had differently was they had the hottest sister of all time. Like Pete and Rich's sister was Liz, and she was a little older than us. She was like 2 years older, so 2 grades above us in school. But she was really cool. Like you'd show up and she would be like, hey, what are you boys doing tonight? Like that. But, so it was like, oh my God, she's even talking to us. But she was incredibly drop dead gorgeous, but also really cool. So it was like, you were like, wow, she's really cool and really nice. Let's all marry Liz. Can we marry Liz? All of us together? But she was dating Kip, who Jeff wound up knocking the shit out of in the parking lot of the Chicago Stadium once. All right. So, not that you care about Liz and Kip. Nobody does. So, but we care about Pete. Well, Pete was our good friend, and then Rich was his younger brother, and Rich was fucking insane. Rich was the craziest kid. Everybody knows that one kid who's nuts. That one kid who's that when you got to dissect frogs, he was the guy who asked if he could do yours. You know what I mean? And then he cut the legs off for luck, like that kind of fucking dude. Rich was a guy who, when they were playing war, like they were basically playing war, and they had a fort, and another group of guys had a fort, and these other guys come to their fort, and they find dead animals hanging in their fort. Cats and rabbits just killed and hanging on a line, sent as a method of intimidation by Rich in the game of war they were playing. That didn't go very well with the local authorities. Rich was the kind of guy who he was on the wrestling team in high school, and he would carry a package of salt in his tights in case he would have the opportunity to throw it in another guy's face during a match. He loved wrestling that much. And seriously, he asked our wrestling coach if he could wear a mask. Like a luchador's mask. And he was serious. Like he wanted to do it. And they were like, what the fuck? This guy's crazy. Rich invented an act for the talent show in school. He showed it to us at the house once. It was called Mr. Fireman. Rich put roll-on deodorant all over his arms and set himself on fire. And then he was going to like wave his arms around. He wanted all the lights out, and then he would put roll-on deodorant on him, and then he was going to set himself, and he showed it to us. He literally set himself on fire. Put roll-on deodorant all over his arms. So that's Rich. Rich is pretty crazy. And the best part about Rich, the punchline on it is, we all thought he'd be dead. We all thought that he's just going to be... And he's the guy, because I told you I didn't graduate with my class, so I had to I went to school for another year and still didn't graduate. That's right. I went 5 years and didn't graduate because I was a fucking lazy goof. So, but I hung out with Rich in the year when my friends had all left because I knew Rich from being friends with Pete. And we wound up, the one time I needed him to be crazy, he wasn't crazy. We went to a midnight movie. We went to a showing of The Warriors. And with The Warriors, the gang movie, which we all love, right? Don't we all love it? If you don't know what it is, it's Warriors come out to play. It's a gang movie in New York, and the Warriors have to bop their way back to Coney. So we go, and it's me and Rich and a few other guys, Greg and Rob, and I think there's like 6 of us. And in the middle of the movie at the Louis Joliet Mall, there's another screen showing Song Remains the Same, showing Zeppelin next door. So in the middle of the Warriors, these guys come bursting in to the Zeppelin or to the Warriors screening, and there's like six dudes and like 2 chicks, and they're like, "Boo! This is pussy shit. This movie sucks." They're just like yelling it in the middle of the theater. They walk all the way down the center aisle, and they keep yelling at us, "Boo! Fuck this pussy shit. Let's go see Zeppelin. You guys are fucking pussies. Fucking Zeppelin." Like, this is the Midwest, folks. This is what happens when you're 17 in the Midwest. So we're sitting there, and it's me and a bunch of, like I said, there's like 5 other dudes. And they go down under the screen. Now, the movie's playing on the screen itself, and they're underneath the screen, and they're yelling, "Fuck this pushy shit. Let's go see Zeppelin." And in the front, there's 2 guys. And these 2 guys go, "Shut the fuck up. Get out of here. We're watching the movie." And they go, "Oh, yeah? Fuck you, man. You want to fucking go? You want to you fucking kick your ass?" And they're yelling at these 2 people. So it's 2 on 8, basically. These 8 people are yelling at these 2 people. And I'm sitting there, and I'm vibrating because I'm excited about anything that's going to happen. Sure, I like movies, but I like chaos a lot more than I like movies. So they're yelling there, and I'm just like, "Oh, somebody fucking shoot somebody already." So they go, "You want to go?" And they're like, "Fine, fuck it, let's go." So the 8 guys go walking up the aisle, and the 2 guys go to follow them. And as the 2 guys stand up, they go, "Hey!" And over across the center aisle, there's like 10 guys who stand up who are with the 2 guys who are in the front. So now we've got like 20 people. And they all start kind of filing up, and they go to the top. And if you go to a movie theater, not so much now, because... but in the old movie theaters, you would walk in and there would be like a big space, and then you would walk to your seats. Now that big space is kind of outside because they don't want to disturb anybody, and they don't want, there's just aisles. But there used to be a big, thing in the back. So they're in the back, and they're all yelling and screaming, and I turn around and I look at Rich and everybody, and I go, "We got to fucking get up there." Why? Why do we got to get up there? I don't know, but I wanted to be a fucking part of it. That's all I wanted to know. I just wanted to be in the middle of it. And they're just like, "Dude, no." And I thought Rich would be all for it. I'm like, "Dude, you know what? Set yourself on fire and put on the fucking mask. We're diving right into this. Grab your salt. Let's go." But they're just like, "Nah, just, don't worry about it. They're just yelling." And I'm like, "They're not just yelling. And even if they are just yelling, maybe we can push it to the limit. I mean, maybe we can provide a tipping point where somebody gets fucking jacked." So I'm standing up, and I'm literally in the aisle like a hurdler, like a long distance runner. I'm rocking back and forth. I so want to get up there into this fucking mix. So they're arguing. You see them yelling. They're yelling. Everybody's yelling. It's just this huge kind of nothing's going to happen. They're all just milling about and screaming and pointing and all that stuff. And then it's literally you hear like, oh yeah, yeah, and you just see one guy throw a punch, and then it just turns into a fucking Wile E. Coyote cartoon, and there's nothing but dirt clouds and asterisks and ampersands and all sorts of shit flying out. And I look and I go, they're going, and everybody's just like, so what? And I go, fuck it, and I go running to the fight. I just go sprinting up. And I dive in the middle of it, and I just start fucking hitting people. I don't know who's there. I don't know whose side. I want to hit the Zeppelin guys because the Zeppelin guys are jagoffs. But honestly, whoever gets close to me is getting fucking windmilled. It's just gonna happen. So I'm grabbing dudes and I'm laughing. I'm like, it was like so fun because it was like such a little, and also I'm not getting hit. That's probably, really the key. I'm getting punched, but not like hard in the face. It's just this weird mess. And, I probably did the most damage. I'm sure they were going to stop down. But once I dove in, it's like I'm throwing dudes and I'm punching dudes. And it's just like awesome. I wanted to just fight all day. That's what I wanted to do. My friends they don't back me up at all. They're watching the Warriors. They don't even come up. And then the fight all just calms down. And I'm just kind of standing there like, looking around. What? Somebody hit me? Anybody? What's happening? And it calms down. And the ushers, they're like the cops are coming and everything. And it looks like it's calmed down. And one of the Zeppelin guys is walking away. And he comes up behind one of the guys from the Warriors who's just kind of standing there. And the Zeppelin guy comes up behind him and punches him as hard as I've ever seen anybody get hit in their life from behind. He's standing behind him and he reaches around with a right hook and just punches him right in the jaw underneath the ear. He blasts him as hard as he can, just like this sucker punch from the back. And it was just like this, oh no, like it was just terrible. The guy takes the shot and fucking turns around like he ate the shot and there was nothing wrong with him. Because it was the hardest, sneakiest punch of all time. And this guy took the shot and then just turned around almost with like a grin on his face. And he's like, all right. And he just grabbed this guy by the fucking hair and just went hockey fight on him. He's just throwing fucking right hands and uppercuts. He's going over under on him, which is like over the top and then under, boom, boom. And then the fight starts again. And I'm just like, yes. And I just start throwing dudes. And it's like this crazy pushing, shoving match. So the cops come and they take away the Zeppelin guys, get taken away, and then like the Warriors guys are licking their wounds and everybody's trying to recover. And I walk back down to my seat and the movie's still playing. There's still people in the theater and they're watching the film. I guess I don't know how you don't turn around and check out the gang fight that's going on at the top of the stairs or the top of the ramp, but they didn't. They all stuck around and watched the movie because we really want to see how the Warriors ends. And I walk down, and again, I'm bloody. Like I have scratches on my neck, and my mouth is bleeding, and my hair got pulled, and I'm all sweaty, and I'm a little out of breath, and my shirt is all loose from people grabbing it and pulling it, so it's like kind of hanging on me. And I walk back down to my seat. Movie's still playing. I sit down. I look at my friends. They're just fucking staring at me, and I go, "What'd I miss?" All right, that didn't really happen. I wish it would have. Wouldn't that have been a great ending to it? But it didn't. Instead, what usually happens in these cases is I turn around and I look at my friends and they go, "What the fuck is wrong with you, Schmitty?" And I go, "Well, where were you guys? Come on!" Watch the movie and split. That was the greatest. So that's Rich. That was the time I needed him to be crazy, and he wasn't crazy. But it turns out I talked to my buddy Jeff, and my buddy Jeff, here's the punchline on Rich. Rich is incredibly rich. Like he's taken his personality of extremism and he's harnessed it and used it in business. So he's actually grown a business from the ground up and then sold it and doing something different now, like that kind of rich. So here's how rich he is. He has this huge house. His house has an elevator. I'm not kidding. He had a house built. It has a full basketball court, indoor, built, and an elevator. When I went to his house, because I went to his old house, all right, I watched the Super Bowl at his house one time, and he's like, "Schmitty, you got to see this. It's unbelievable." He was one of the first people I ever knew who had surround sound, but he had surround sound where you could be in the bathroom or the kitchen or in the garage, and you could hear the Super Bowl. We were watching the Super Bowl at his house. Like, his house is crazy. I mean, he's always first with the technology and the toys, just amazing. And now he's got a wife, and he's got beautiful kids. And another thing about Rich, I will tell you, Rich is the biggest Kiss fan I've ever met in my life. I love Kiss, okay, but I also recognize that they're pretty ridiculous. He might recognize that, but he worships them. Here's how much Rich worships Kiss. Rich bought the Kiss Prowler, which is a car, a Kiss car that they had specially built. Rich bought it and used to show it at auctions, and he used to like lend it to car shows. Fucking Rich owned the Kiss Prowler. I can't even. I think he's got the Kiss coffin. He's got all the albums and stuff. So Jeff tells me that he goes to his house this year for his Christmas party, and he's like, "Oh, Jeff, you got to see this. You're not going to believe it, pal. You got to see this." He takes him to his home office. He walks into Rich's home office and mounted up. A lot of people have portraits of their family. They might have portraits of their friend, whatever they have. They have a family portrait. Above his mantelpiece in his office, he has a piece of original artwork from Paul Stanley. Because Paul Stanley paints. Paul Stanley is an artist, and in his office, he has this painting called The Jester. And he says to him, he goes, "Come on, you're not going to believe it, Jeff. Look at this." And he has the picture of him with Paul handing him the painting, because he bought it from Paul. And Paul is holding Rich's son and handing the painting to Rich. That's how fucking loaded and how much of a Kiss fan Rich is. And then he's got it up on his wall, and it's called The Jester. And now I can't stop doing Paul Stanley describing his artwork. So now all Christmas vacation, I'm at my buddy Mex's house, and my friend Pat does Paul Stanley, and we all do it. But Pat does it funnier than any of us. I mean, it's fucking hysterical, but it's like, but who cares? I do it all the time too. It's just, we're in the house, we're just going, "People, let me talk about a little piece of artwork called The Jester." Like, we just kept, like that he would introduce, "People, I like painting. Who likes painting out there? Sometimes when you get a brush, you just go crazy. Here's a painting of my love gun." I mean, it's just, I just can't, I just picture him meeting him and Paul just going, "People, this is The Jester." I'm just so crazy. So that's Rich. And I'm so pissed I didn't get to see him. I missed his Christmas party by a fucking week, but that's that. So that was my trip home. That's who I didn't get to see. That's who I did get to see. And now that my mom has figured out her iPod, I'm assuming I won't be seeing her ever again. You guys can write me at mike@MikeSchmidtComedy.com or get me at myspace.com/MikeSchmidtComedy. Go ahead and go to iTunes. You can subscribe at MikeSchmidt/podcast.asp. Subscription links there for all of you Zune users who have Zunes that still work. I can't tell you how many emails I got from people going, "Did you see this story?" When the Zunes quit over New Year's Eve. Every Zune turned into a fucking doorstop for a day. I love it. I think it's hysterical. And it made me think of like Halloween 3 when all the masks turn people into bugs. Like the masks dissolve their heads. I'm waiting for the Zune-apocalypse where everything just happens and the Zunes freak out and start stabbing you in your sleep. So if you've got a Zune or an iPod, go to, like I said, MikeSchmidt.com/podcast.asp, and there's subscription links for both of you if you can ever get your Zune working again. And also go to iTunes and review the show. I would appreciate that. Thank you so much for everybody who has up to this point. That's great. Thank you so much. And also, like I said, MikeSchmidtComedy.com. That's Mike@MikeSchmidtComedy.com. Go to ComedyFilmNerds.com because there's all sorts of articles and fun stuff there. I don't have anything new there just yet, but I might soon. I haven't seen any movies because, again, I was out of town furrowing my brow and trying to figure out how to get the fuck out of Illinois. So I didn't get to see any movies while I was there. But also, guys, I want to remind you that every Monday night is the Monday Night Tease show at the 3 clubs on Santa Monica and Vine. Go ahead and check it out. Go to Burlesque 411 for all the information that you would need. And or you can write Lily at LILI@burlesque.com. Or no, burlesque411.com. So get Lily at burlesque411.com, and she will go ahead and answer all of your questions about nudity. And she's got an upcoming show, like a laugh-in themed show. Is that what it's going to be? And literally in her house right now, you can hear it. She's building a wall. The wall for Laugh-In. I don't know how it's going to get out of here, but it's a wall. Like, you ever see Laugh-In, the show, which is awful and unfunny, and people start sticking their heads through and telling bad jokes? Well, guess what, folks? I should have actually just stuck my head through and done this whole podcast through the Laugh-In wall. That would have been fantastic. But go to burlesque411.com for all the information regarding any show, but especially the Monday Night Tease show, which our friend Lily books and is part of every Monday night at the 3 clubs on Santa Monica and Vine. And it's funny, I mentioned that I got a lot of emails from people regarding the Zunes falling apart or stopping in the middle of their day. But I will say that is the second most voluminous email I received over the past 2 weeks. The first would be people sending me emails about the guy in Philadelphia who shot someone in the movie theater because his family was talking. And the one guy, like literally in the subject of the email, it just said, "There, but for the grace of God, ... And he sent me the link to the guy shooting somebody in the theater. And I got to, folks, I am all for this. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's terrible. And it turns out they were charging him with attempted murder, but now they're not. And this guy, they were trying to say he was in the military and he's a crack shot and he could have killed everybody. Who fucking knows? All I know is, you know what? Don't talk during a fucking movie. How does that grab you? Especially during Benjamin Button, where I assume that most of you are just looking at one another going, wow, this is a lot like Forrest Gump, isn't it? Or maybe you're leaning over and going, hey, does this sort of remind you of Big Fish? I would imagine that you guys would be doing a lot of talking about that during Benjamin Button. But this is a warning to all of you. If you talk in a movie theater, you're going to get fucking shot. That's it. It's not even up for debate anymore. This guy has opened the floodgates, and I am going to be strapped every time I go to a film from now on. Because we all know that I'm ready to throw hands in a movie. I think we all learned that during this episode. You know, that's funny. My history of violence in movie theaters may have started when I was 17. But that was not of my doing. But sure enough, it was like there was a gang fight, and I'm that guy to this day. Like and that's when I have to stop. When I was going to therapy, I was talking to the chick, and I'm like, look, I'll be somewhere, and something will happen, and there's an argument, and I get that fucking like weird vibrating feeling where I'm like, I got to get involved in this. No, you don't. Nobody has to get involved in this. Let these guys settle it, and you and your wife enjoy your milk duds. What the fuck is wrong with you? But that's just my weird mindset. And again, it's just, I'm sure it's the fact that I can't control anything in my life, so I have to try to, control everything. Or it's just, I'm just a fucking rageaholic. Who the fuck knows? All I know is the bottom line is, don't go to a movie if I'm going to be there. That's it. Seriously, because if you see me in line for a movie, just know that something is going to happen. Very bad. The potential for mayhem is palpable. Believe me, nobody wants palpable potential, okay? Because alliteration is awful. And see, right there, alliteration is awful. There you go. 2A, 2B. This is awful for everybody. I'm a dick, folks. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a decent guy because I am a jerk. And I'm not a jerk. Man, I'm an awful guy. I'm not an awful guy. I am not a good guy. But I don't think I'm a bad person overall. So, and go ahead and by all means judge that. I'm kind of a jagoff. I got no future. What am I talking about? But I am a jagoff. And I'm not a jerk. I'm a nice guy. It's just I guess I have jerky tendencies. I've done so much ridiculous stuff, and then I wonder afterwards, I'm like, man, how come I don't hang out with anybody? Here's why, because you're a dick. You're finished. 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 You're finished.